Alrighty, welcome back everyone. Scarland here bringing you a new Neverwinter video. Today we're going to tackle the subject for the Mod 18 Warlock build and guide. I know this has been long anticipated and it took me a while to accumulate the items that I needed to make the guide and the build. And I didn't even get them all, so we're just going to put this out there and I'm going to tell you guys what you should be aiming for. I'm going to try to keep this video as tight and, as short as I can, but the build and the guide videos do take a little bit longer to do. There will be timestamps in the description, and as always, hopefully you enjoy it. Leave me a comment below. Let me know how you're playing as a Warlock. My overall opinion of the Warlock currently as of Mod 18 is it's in a good place. However, it still needs some work done to it, especially with the single target abilities, specifically talking about Soul Investor, of course. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into this. Alright, starting off, we're going to talk about the race and attributes. So obviously, best in slot is always the shiny metallic Dragonborn if you're lucky enough to have one. I've just never felt the need to boost my HP anymore, but Dragonborn would be best in slot for the critical strike that you get, as well as the 3% raw DPS bonus. Now, if you don't have the Dragonborn, obviously it is kind of pay to win. You do have to purchase the Dragonborn. Race does very little impact for your character overall, so you can pretty much just play whatever you enjoy playing as far as your race goes. I would recommend the Tefling, as it does have the 50% DPS increase. Well, not 50% DPS. If the mob HP is 50% or less, you will do additional DPS. So the Tefling is a good free-to-play class, but essentially you can play whatever you want. Now, looking at your attributes and your statistics, as far as Mod 18 goes, we all know that the stat caps are 85,000. So, your armor pen, your defense, your critical strike, your accuracy all need to be 85,000 or greater, and your combat advantage needs to be 135,000. So you can see on the screen here of my statistics, they're all pretty much capped. My defense isn't. It's at 84.6, but this is my AoE loadout. We are still using loadouts. I am personally. As a player, you don't have to. You can run one loadout and you'll be fine. It all depends on the items you have. So if you're a new player, you're not going to have everything I have. You know, it's going to be easier to go with one loadout. So specifically talking about the attributes, we have 397,000. This goes up on single target, but specifically talking about the attributes, you're going to dump all your points into dexterity as well as intelligence. Intelligence is for the magical damage boost, which doesn't matter. These numbers are very insignificant. The magical damage boost from intelligent is not that big of a deal. The same thing can be said about the crit severity. So we go into dexterity for the crit severity as well as the movement speed. So just go down the line and pick up these attributes. As far as your overall bonus ones, the main one you need to focus is your crit severity. For me personally, I can get up to 150% when I'm fully buffed and everything is proccing and everything's going off. I get around, it's actually 149.5% when I'm fully buffed and everything, so not too shabby there. That's one of the main stats that you do want to focus on is your crit severity, and try to get as much power as you can while maintaining all your stat caps. So like I said, your armor pen, your crit, your accuracy all need to be 85,000. If you can get your defense to 85,000, that's great. And then your combat advantage needs to be 135,000. So that's just a little snapshot of the stats, the race, and the attributes, and then we will move on. Now we're going to go ahead and jump into the gear. Now, like I said, for me specifically, I am still running loadouts. If you don't want to run loadouts, you can run a single build for AoE and single target and just change your encounters. We'll go over that toward the end of the video. So let's jump right in here. For the helmet, specifically the Protege Charmed Hat should only be used with Tower of the Mad Mage. This is one of the pieces of gear that I'm currently missing. So if you navigate to your campaigns, go to the Mod 8, and we're looking at the store here. I'm eventually going to get the Lion's Guard Raid Cow. I should get it next week. If you haven't seen my video on how to obtain the Mod 18 gear, go back in my past videos. It was posted a little bit ago. So I'm missing this right now. It's when your stamina is over 75%, you will get 5,000 power. So as long as you're not shadow slipping around all the time, you're going to get that 5k power. I'm actually going to most likely use this helmet on AoE and single target. I do have a single target helm right now, but once I get this Lion's Guard, I'm probably just going to keep the Lion's Guard on both loadouts. As far as the Protege, like I said, you're going to want to keep this in case you are still farming Tower of the Mad Mage, which I currently still am. So it's a 5% damage in the Undermount, and you want to make sure you have one of these if you are doing that content. Next up is going to be the Ebony Stained Robes. This is still best in slot. The Butcher's Might with the stacking just overall gives you more power, so this is why we're using this. As far as the gloves, we're using the new Lion Geared as well, the Lion Guards Raid Wrist Guards. You can gain power from this. I'm using this again on single target and AoE. And then the boots, we're using the Sill version of the Mod 18 gear. So there are two different gear types. One you can buy with seals and one you can buy with reagents from the Mod 18 dungeon. These ones, the Infernal Forged shoes, actually are obtained by the seals. So every 5 seconds you are in combat, you get 200 power. This equates to 24 stacks, which is 4,800 power as long as you remain in combat. And what I like about these is they don't disintegrate after X amount of time. We've had items in the past where, you know, you stay in combat for 2 minutes, but after 2 minutes you start losing that power. That doesn't happen with these boots. You're always going to have max stacks as long as you are in combat, which is really good. Now, a lot of people are using the other new boots, the Rusted Iron Leggings, for the raw 5% damage. They are better to a degree. If you use the Rusted Iron Leggings, you're going to have the negative 25% incoming healing, so keep that in mind. And it's overall, if you take the 48 power versus the 5% raw damage, the raw damage outweighs it by 1.5%. So if you're okay sacrificing 25 incoming healing for 1.5% increased damage, then that's up to you. If you want that extra 1.5% and you're willing to take the negative 25%, that's up to you. Specifically for me, you guys know I don't run tacticals in my utility slots, so that's literally negative 25% incoming healing. I simply just, you know, prefer to do this. The 1.5 damage ratio, it's not going to do anything. So you can do what you want, run whatever boot you want. As far as the main hand and offhand goes, for the AoE loadout, we are still using the Alabaster set solely for the bonus here. Your power and crit, it goes up 1% for every enemy you're faced with, all the way up for 10%. If you're only facing one enemy, then you get 5%. Now, this is, again, if you have your Lionheart weapons already, the weapons you get from Tower of the Mad Mage, you can simply just run your Lionheart weapons on a single loadout. I still use loadouts, guys, because I still run the Lightning. So, for instance, if we want to talk about the Lightning very quickly, I'm still running a Lightning for AoE. You don't have to. You can run a Balthorn for AoE and just run the Lionheart weapons. You'll be fine. I mean, I like the Lightning personally. I like running the Lightning, especially on the Warlock for AoE situations. Just watching all those numbers appear on the screen, doing AoE damage. If you pop Tyrannical down and just the damage spreads everywhere. I personally like the Lightning. But again, you don't have to. If you're a new player and you're not going to have millions upon millions of AD to invest into a character and into loadouts, that's up to you. Now, if you're a well-developed character, then yes, you can run loadouts and you can switch between AoE and single target. If we also look at the armor enchantment here, I'm still personally using the Bark Shield. However, you can still use a Soul Forged here. You can use a Blood Theft here. You have different ones that you can use that will still be valuable to you. As far as the armor modification goes on all the armor, this gives you a place to make up your stats. So if you're not hitting your stat caps, for instance, I have all my stat caps, you can simply go raw power and your modifications for the armor itself. So that's 880 power on your helmet, chest, arms, and boots. That's just extra power stacking up. Now, if we talk about the modifications, we're using Hellish Rebuke on the weapon. And again, for me personally, I have the recharge speed and power. Now this again here, if you're missing statistics, this is a good opportunity where you can get extra statistics from. For me, all my stats are already maxed out, so I just go with the pure power. The recharge speed is also up to you. Crit severity is good. The AP gain is good, but this loadout for me is specifically for AoE situations. I just prefer faster recharges on my encounter abilities. Now let's go ahead and talk about the rings. Warlock, we're going to take the Guiding Ring of the Spy ×2. So remember, the Sniper's perk does stack twice. Your ranged powers do 3% more damage. So we're actually taking 2 of these rings. They're very cheap, and you're going to get pretty much 40,000 accuracy just from these rings. They're 19.8. Now, there's a lot of argument that you could go for the legendary rings. Unless you get a legendary ring as a drop, just go with the epics. The legendary rings have no difference other than they have 400 more statistics. So on the legendary version of these rings, it's 20,200. So you would get an extra 800 accuracy. You're simply not going to need that. If you want to spend the money, I mean, you can compare on your platform how much the legendary rings are selling versus the epics. On Xbox currently, you can get these epic rings for less than 100,000, whereas the legendary versions sell upwards of 1 million plus. So are you going to spend 1 million plus just to say you have legendary rings and you're gaining an extra 400 accuracy? It just doesn't make logical sense. Use the epic rings. Don't be a dummy. Don't be a Timmy. Now we'll talk about the modifications here since we're on it. It's just combat advantage. So combat advantage on the necklace, the rings, and the belt. Now, as far as your 3-piece set, this is up for debate as well. I'm currently using the Mod 18 ones. However, this is going to be short term. If we look at it, it increases your damage dealt by 2.5%. However, it increases your damage dealt by additional 2.5% against demon, devils, and fiends. So if you're doing Mod 18 content, you're going to get 5% damage bonus from this 3-piece set. However, we know that Mod 19 is going to continue the storyline of Mod 18. We're still going to be in Avernus. We're still going to be doing demons, devils, and fiends. However, Mod 20 might be something completely different. So the longevity of this item, that's up to you. Another good set, another 3-piece set, of course, is going to be the Hallister set. So if we look at the Hallister set very quickly, just as comparison here, the Hallister set is going to give you 5% damage everywhere as long as you stand still for 3 seconds. So as long as you're standing still for 3 seconds, you're going to increase your damage by 5%. This 3-piece set is more popular probably than the Mod 18 set because this set is going to have the longevity. It doesn't matter what content comes out in Mod 20, this set would still be relevant, whereas the set that I'm wearing may or may not be relevant, right? This is only going to give you 2.5% damage overall everywhere. But as long as you're killing demons, devils, and fiends, which is going to be the Mod 18 content and most likely the Mod 19 content, then you're going to get 5%. So keep that in mind, especially if you're still farming Tower of the Mad Mage. So for instance, if I'm doing Tower of the Mad Mage, I'm actually only getting 2.5% because Hallister is not a demon, a devil, or a fiend, right? So anyone that's still wearing the Hallister set is going to out DPS me in Tower of the Mad Mage because they're getting 5% where I'm only getting 2.5. So keep that in mind, guys, when you're going for your 3-piece set on based on what you want. So that is going to be the Whip of the Aranese, the Engine Master's Mantle, and then the artifact is the Book of Darkness. That's the 3-piece set that I've chosen. Like I said, you can use the Hallister set, and you're going to have most likely a longer longevity out of the Hallister set, depending on what Mod 20 brings us. I mean, for all I know, Mod 20 could have another 3-piece set that's going to be better. As far as the shirt and pants, this is up for debate as well. I personally prefer the Infernal Forged Raid Shirt, which is the Mod 18, one of the Mod 18 items you can buy with the seals, just because it gives me more statistical value. However, the Butcher Zill, I mean, it is what it is. I'm going to gain action points. A lot of people are using the Ebony Stained here, which gives you a raw 3% DPS increase. So, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. If you want to use the Ebony shirt for the 3% DPS increase, or if you want the AP gain, again, that's up to you. Me personally, I prefer the Infernal because it has more raw statistical values on it, so that's just me personal. And again, I just matched it with the Infernal trousers, so those statistics don't matter. The defense and deflection is irrelevant, as well as the Warden's haste is irrelevant. Finally, we'll just go over the enchantments here. So again, I don't use tacticals. I highly recommend that everyone else does use tacticals. I use darks. Don't ask why. It's companion influence. It's not that big of a deal. You should have tacticals here. I like challenging myself. I've done mod 18, I've done Infernal Citadel with no tacticals and wearing the negative 25 healing boots, and very rarely die. So, as far as utility slots go, I use the darks. I recommend everyone use tacticals, obviously. As far as defensive slots goes, it's Radiance. You're going to want that pure HP bonus, so use Radiance and defense. And then as far as your offensive slots, again, Radiance. I use Radiance in defense and offensive slots for power in the offensive, raw power, as well as raw HP in the defensive slots. You can use whatever you want, guys. I mean, if you need to balance your statistics, that's your top priority. So if you have to use Black Ice enchantments or Brutals or Demonics, however you manage to get your stat caps, that's what you need to focus on. For me, I have my stat caps. I go for pure power and pure HP. Also, you want to make sure you're still using one Tenebrous enchantment. That's going to increase your overall DPS. I have mine in the shirt, so make sure you get a rank 15 of that, just so you get that extra 24k damage. Finally, when it comes down to the gear, let's talk about the artifacts. The Tells of Old are going to be best in slot. So the Envenomed one, specifically for DPS, as the active one, you're going to gain all these bonuses, and it's just bonuses on bonuses. This is going to increase your DPS. This is going to do more DPS. If you run 3 of the artifacts, you're going to increase your power, you're going to increase your HP, you're going to have the Lost Mouth Set bonus, so the weapon damage on critical hit, and another thing that I just noticed, that even though you're running 3 journals and you're not running the actual necklace or belt, you still actually get those bonuses. So you increase your attributes by 1, and then you have 10% unresistible weapon damage as well. So those are minor, the attributes, but it still does work. Even though I'm not running the necklace or the belt, I'm still running 3 of the journals. So not only am I getting the Storyteller's journal set bonus right here, I'm also getting the Tells set bonus. That's very important, because I know a lot of DPS characters were simply just running the Envenomed Storyteller's journal. You're going to want to get 3. You're going to want to run 3 of these artifacts from the Tells of the Old. Now, if you don't have access to those specific artifacts, then I simply recommend that you just go ahead and get the newer artifacts. So we're talking about the Staff of Flowers, Trobriand's Ring, and the Werven Knives. Just because they have their item level 300, they're going to have maximum statistical value from those items. That's going to wrap it up for AoE, I believe. So let's go ahead and just jump into single target here. As far as gear goes, like I said, there's not much of a difference. The helmet, I'm using the Fancy Duelist Mask currently. So it's when in combat with only one enemy, your power is increased by 5,000. Now, I like this, but the more I realized, there are certain boss mechanics in the game that will spawn ads. And if that boss spawn adds, then you are no longer in combat with one enemy, guys. So you're going to lose this 5,000 power. This is why I'm recommending that you go ahead and use that Lion Guard armor. As long as you are above 75% stamina, you're going to gain the 5,000 power no matter what. So that's why I'm going to be using the Lion's Guard on my AoE loadout as well as my single target. I'm not going to no longer use the fancy duelist mask here because, like I said, there are some boss encounters in the game where he will spawn ads, and if there's ads, then you're screwed. So no other changes other than the weapon set. For me personally, I'm still using the Burnished. However, like I did mention before, the Lionheart is the best in the game. So you can run Lionheart whether single target or AoE. I have the Burnish set right now, and the only other difference is going to be the enchantment. So we used Lightning for AoE. Balthorn is going to be best in slot for the Warlock as far as single target goes. So make sure you get a Balthorn. Doesn't even matter what rank it is. Make sure you have a Balthorn. Make sure you're ranking up your Balthorn. Try to get it to rank 14. It's a good hunk of damage. Other than that, I don't think there's any difference on the gear, except I think maybe the artifact modifiers here for single target. Yes, I do have critical strike here as far as single target. So I showed you my statistics on when we had our AoE loadout. So now we're up to 145% crit severity. And when we talk about companions, I actually have more than that because my companion gives me some too. Like I said, we should be at 149.5% is what I get up to. Actually, we're at 150 now, so 150% crit severity is what you're, aiming for. 150% is pretty nice, to be honest. We'll talk about that more when we get into the companion section. Other than that, as far as single target goes, nothing else changes. We're using all the same artifacts, just a different weapon set. Everything else is pretty much the same as far as AoE versus single target. So that is going to wrap up the gears section. I think I mentioned everything. If I missed something, leave a comment below. Let's go ahead and move on. Alright guys, and let's move on to the powers and the core build itself. Now again, as I aforementioned in this video, you can run a single loadout if you so choose, and then you'll have to manually change this stuff. So that's up to you if you want to run two loadouts with a Lightning, or if you want to run a single loadout and just run the Balthorn for AoE and single target. You're just going to simply have to change some of the abilities around, which really isn't that big of a deal, so that's completely up to you. So if we look at the build itself, we're going to go with double Scorch because Soul Scorch damage is actually decent, and the damage over time is increased by 10%. It's not really a big bonus, but it's better than the daily powers granting 12 Soul Sparks, because our Soul Spark generation should already be good enough to begin with. Next on the list, we're taking Warlock's Curse. You do 12% more damage to targets afflicted with Curse. We're taking that over Parting Blasphemy, even though Parting Blasphemy was increased to 85 magnitude. It's not worth it, guys. The combination that we were using for AoE was Parting Blasphemy with Curse Bite and a cursed, all-consuming curse. So every time you'd cast your at-will all-consuming curse, and then you would rip it out with Curse Bite, and then you would get the extra 85 magnitude every time you Curse Bite. It's just simply not worth it for AoE. So now we're going with Warlock's Curse. Next, we take Risky Investment, and this is Soul Investor, of course, which is a 20% overall increase. Now, this is the part of the Warlock that I don't like right now, the mechanics. I think the Warlock's in a good place overall, except the self-buff for Risky Investment. They need to do something. They need to rework this. It needs to be faster. They nerfed it once already, so I mean, it is what it is, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. Next, Creeping Death got significantly buffed. Creeping Death is a good portion of your overall damage, minus your Killing Flames. Of course, Killing Flames is going to always be high tier damage, but Creeping Death, the stacking the DOTs, is a significant DPS increase, and of course we're going to take that over your powers deal 20% more damage as your target's health diminishes. The 20% is insignificant to the damage you're going to do with Creeping Death. The Creeping Death stacks just keep stacking up to 10 times. They are always there, pretty much. As long as you're attacking, your Creeping Death should be on it. Personally, my Creeping Death per per tick per proc is hitting for 13,000, 14,000, 15,000. So there's some mechanics in the game that I wish would proc off Creeping Death. Specifically, I'm talking about like the Owlbear. The Owlbear companion won't proc off of the stacks of Creeping Death if you don't crit with it. So that's something that would also overall increase the Warlock DPS if something like that would ever happen. Finally, we're taking Soul Spark Recovery. Every 6 Soul Sparks spent will decrease your cooldowns by 1 second. So essentially, as the Warlock, it's all about spark generation. You're just unloading damage on top of damage with DOT damage. And as soon as you get full Soul Sparks, once you have 30 Soul Sparks, you're just dumping those Soul Sparks immediately and rinsing the process all over again. We're going to take that over the Soul Puppet. The Soul Puppet is useless. So this is the core build right here, guys. Double Scorch, Warlock's Curse, Risky Investment, Creeping Death, and Soul Spark Recovery. This is going to be both for AoE and single target. Now, if you want to, like I said, if you want to try Parting Blasphemy for yourself for AoE situations, then that's up to you. Let me know how it goes for you. Maybe you enjoy that playstyle more. For me, it's way too slow. Having to wait for the stacks of Curse Bite to come, you get 2 charges of this. It's a slow mechanic. You're going to do more DPS with the Warlock's Curse overall. But maybe that's not your playstyle. Hey, whatever floats your boat, guys. It's your cup of tea. Play the Warlock how you so choose. This is the current Mod 18 core build. Like I said, this is for single target and AoE. Now, specifically talking about class features and encounters and at-wills, this is where you would have to change. If you are running one loadout, then you're going to have to constantly change all this stuff in between fights or when you get to a boss fight. If you're using the loadout functions and you have an AoE loadout and a single target loadout, then it just saves you time, right? So for AoE specifically, we're taking Dark Prayers. Whenever a target affected by your curse dies, you spawn a Soul Puppet, and this will proc your Risky Investment with your Soul Investor. So it's very easy on AoE to maintain 5 stacks of Soul Investor for maximum damage potential. Next, we're taking No Pity, No Mercy. Now, you don't have to take No Pity, No Mercy. I just prefer it. That's up to you what you want to take. This turns our Hellish Rebuke into a direct damage spell instead of a DOT spell, and it also gives us combat advantage. So in AoE situations, I personally just run around like a madman and try to kill everything as fast as humanly possible, right? You're talking about an AoE situation. They're most likely trash mobs. I don't have time to sit there and try to get behind trash mobs to get combat advantage. No Pity, No Mercy is going to give you combat advantage no matter where you're positioned, so I prefer to use it on the AoE loadout. You don't have to. That's completely up to you. You can use ACC. You can even use Dust to Dust for 5% damage. I prefer No Pity, No Mercy. That's up to the individual player. For single target, however, we will be switching to ACC and Deadly Curse. So, as far as I know, Deadly Curse is still bugged, where it is double dipping the damage. Your curse deals 25 magnitude whenever it is applied to an enemy. So when you pair this with ACC and you're just spamming your at-wills, your Deadly Curse is also going to proc. And as far as I know, up until filming of this video, which is April 16th of 2020, I don't know when the video itself will get released, but if you're watching this down the road, this may eventually change. If they ever fix this, because this, in my eyes, this is bugged, right? This shouldn't be double dipping damage. We'll probably either be going to Dust for the raw 5% damage most likely, or maybe No Pity, No Mercy for single target. But as it sits right now, you're going to gain the most DPS value from using ACC and Deadly Curse on single target, just because it's double dipping the damage. So let's talk about encounters. So our encounters for an AoE situation are going to be Blades of the Vanquished Armies. We're going to use Fiery Bolt, and we're going to use Hellfire Ring as far as AoE goes. For single target, you're going to actually keep Blades of the Vanquished Armies. you're going to switch to Hador's Grasp, and you're going to use Killing Flames. The reason we use Blades of the Vanquished for single target is not actually for the damage value. It's more along the lines of regenning or soul sparks. You'll see at the end of the video when I do the demonstration for both AoE and single target that our soul spark generation just skyrockets between using Blades of the Vanquished and Hand of Blight. You should constantly always have soul sparks and then depleting those soul sparks. And that brings us right into our at-wills here. So Hellish Rebuke and Hand of Blight, both for single target and AoE situations. As far as your dailies go, Tyrannical Curse, hands down. Single target, AoE, doesn't matter. If you want to use a Cursed Souls for AoE, that's fine, but you're very rarely going to use it, and to be honest. Tyrannical Curse for single target is going to give you the, 20%, or I'm sorry, 15% increased DPS, and then for AoE, it's going to spread all of your damage as well. And that pretty much wraps it up for the build, guys. If you have any questions regarding this, or if you have ideas or suggestions, or maybe something's working out better for you personally, and I will more than happy test it for you and see what the overall damage numbers looks like, that's going to be the core build and the powers, the at-wills, etc. So let's go ahead and move along. Very quickly, let's go through the boons just so we have a completed video guide and build video. I mean, the boons haven't changed for a very long time. So you're going to go pretty much all power the whole way up, all HP all the way up. I personally take 5 out of 5 in Marathon Runner for the movement speed, and then the rest of the points are actually your prerogative. If you're still missing statistics, this is an opportunity to spend some boon points if you need armor pen, if you need crit, you need, accuracy, combat advantage. If you're missing points, you can put those here. Me personally, I have 3 points in Cultist Power. I have 5 points in Demonic Mastery. I have 5 points into Necronic Mastery. I have 5 points into Companion Influence. Now, of course, this is completed through Mod 18. Mod 18 gave us 4 new boon points, so you should have a total of 71 total boon points currently. And then let's talk about the Tier 5. I have 4 points into Crit Severity, as well as 4 points into Recharge Speed. Now, you can argue and put them into action points, but the 4%, I just don't think it's really worth it, personally. I'd rather have the Recharge Speed for my encounter powers to really push out those DPS numbers, but vice versa. Whatever one you prefer here. Finally, we're still going with Focused Retaliation. Bloodlust is still broken right now. The rank 3 increased action point gain is still broken. Maybe eventually, when they fix the action point gain, this might actually be worthwhile. It would be a comparison between the two to see which one outputs the most DPS, but for right now, Focused Retaliation is the way to go. So here's a snapshot. This is for both AoE and single target. I don't change anything in here. Now, if you're in a guild, most people have gone away from the power boon now. It's all about that crit severity. It's going to be 15% crit severity is going to outweigh the 8,000 power at this point in the game. So if you're still in a guild and you guys are still using the power bonus, you should probably change over to the crit severity bonus. So this is 15% crit severity, and that's going to be better than the 8,000 power. The defense is your own prerogative again. I prefer HP. But if you still need defense, if you're having problems capping your defense, you can take the 8,000 defense here, but the HP is going to be king. Utility slot, as far as running dungeons and everything, you're going to want the Revive Sickness. If you're doing Tower of the Mad Mage, you're doing Infernal Citadel, you're doing endgame content, you're going to want to have the Revive Sickness on. If you're just running and soloing content, you can go ahead and keep your mount speed, but keep the Revive Sickness on. So again, there's the snapshot of it if you want to take a picture, and then we'll move along. Very quickly, let's go ahead and talk about the mounts. I'm currently using the Bat Swarm. I consider it best in slot. Ever since they nerfed the T-Rex does not stack now, so you have to be coordinated with your group mates. If you have multiple T-Rexes, you have to coordinate when one effect is over, then the next person can cast theirs. I don't have time for that. When we run Tower of the Mad Mage, we usually only have 1 or 2 people that have T-Rexes, and it's basically 1 in each group. That way we know the countdowns on them, etc., because they don't stack anymore. So currently, Bat Swarm to me is going to be best in slot. You're going to increase your damage by 5%, and you're going to cause them to do less 5%, etc. There's the bonuses on this just far outweigh anything else right now. As far as your equip power, you're going to go ahead with the 10k power, assuming you have all your other statistics maxed out at this time. Now, let's talk about insignias quickly. This is one of the best places that you can manage your statistics. For instance, if you are missing out on critical strike, you have the opportunity to get legendary insignias. 1 legendary insignia is going to give you 1,120 crit strike. So you can actually see that I'm wearing 5 of these. I gain a lot of my crit strike from my mount bonuses. So that's a big deal for me, a part of the build. I can't run all power insignias here because I need this critical strike that I have here. Everything else for me is power. So I either have dominance, so I have 3 dominances here, or I have brutalities, right? The other ones are going to be skill. Now, you as a player have to maintain your own statistics. The only thing I have here is power and crit, basically. Well, you know, these are what? Companion influence, and I think brutality has armor pen on it. Those are irrelevant to me. I have the dominances for power, I have the brutality for power, and I have these enlightened because this is where I'm getting that extra 5,000 crit that I need to hit the caps from. And I guess this also has combat advantage, but my combat advantage for me is irrelevant as well. I'm way over capped on it. So just keep that in mind. You can gain a lot of statistics. Now, as far as the insignia bonuses go, they're all trash, guys. They're all trash. The whole insignia bonus system currently needs an overhaul, in my opinion. These are doing nothing. Like, if we look at Barbarian's Revelry, for instance, whenever you perform a critical strike, you are healed for 1% of your maximum hit points. That's, like, just completely irrelevant. It's not going to keep you healed. It's not like having a life still available to you. Assassin's Covenant is still decent, I guess. You lose some defensive stats and you gain 1,000 offensive stats. So, I mean, these just aren't good. It needs an overhaul, in my own personal opinion. Whenever you activate a mount combat power, you gain 1,000 to all of your statistics for 10 seconds. These bonuses are bad. You actually don't have to run any bonuses here. You don't have to run any insignia bonuses. Just get mounts that have slots that you have, right? So you want to make your stats are the priority here. These bonuses are basically what I'm saying are pretty insignificant to the stats of the legendary insignias that you're going to get. So that's my opinion on it. I know a lot of people in game currently don't even run insignia bonuses. Like I said, they only run mounts that have the whatever slots they need, so they can slot in cheap dominances and cheap brutalities, and if they need other slots, etc. A lot of people aren't even running any insignia bonuses right now, so that's up to the personal individual on how you want to do that. So that wraps up the mounts. Let's go ahead and jump into the companions, and we're going to finish up the video. Alright, let's talk about companions. So, me personally, we're still using the Bull A Pup as our active. It's an augmented companion. We're gaining our most statistical values from augmentations right now, so we are still using the Bull A Pup, which is giving us whatever it's giving us. I don't even remember what it's giving us. What's it giving us, guys? Tell me what it's giving us. Combat advantage, defense, and power. So you can use a different augmented companion depending on what statistics you still need. Like I said, this one has combat advantage, defense, and power, so that's why I still use the Bull A Pup. Bonding 15s, obviously, still best in slot. Try to get your bonding 15s before you get anything else. Even before you get your weapon enchantment all the way maxed out, you're going to gain most of your statistical values from your companion. So bonding 15s are pretty much the most important thing that you can upgrade right now. As far as the enhancement, again, I mentioned this in the video earlier, we're going with the crit severity, so we get 5% crit severity. And now let's talk about the companion gear itself. Again, every individual player has to balance their own statistics accordingly. So if you were just going for all the items that I have and you're trying to mimic my build in my video to the letter T, you are going to need these 3 items to do that. So we are using the Ivy Grown Grimoire of the Companion, which is Armor Pen and Combat Advantage. We're using the Ivy Grown Icon of the Companion, which is going to be Critical Strike and Combat Advantage. And then finally, to wrap it up, we're actually using a Imperial Diamond belt. And that's going to be Defense and Combat Advantage. One thing you're going to see in common here is that all 3 pieces of these have combat advantage. You need the most combat advantage. It's the highest statistic that you need. Remember, for mod 18 you need 135,000. That'll probably go up in mod 19 to 140,000, so keep that in mind. As far as your offensive slots go, no brainer here. You're going to go with Empowered Runestones for the raw power. And then since we are forced to use 1 defensive slot here, you're going to simply put a Profane Runestone in there, which is going to give you raw defense. So that wraps it up here. Like I said, if you, depending on how you're balancing your statistics and trying to hit those hard cap numbers, you may have to use different companion gear, guys. Remember, there is loads upon loads of different companion gear. So however you balance your character statistics, there is a big mixture of things that come into play when doing that. Not only with your 3-piece companion gear, but with the enchantments that you run on your character, the whole mount insignias, the companion bonuses, which we're going to talk about next. So however you hit those statistical caps is up to you. This is what I'm currently using. Now let's get into the nitty gritty, right? Alright. First and foremost, Raptor. Yes. However, if everybody in the group has to be running this, we're going to use this on AoE as well as single target. But you need to make sure that everyone in the group has one of these, otherwise it becomes not so good, right? If all 5 players are using the Raptor, then you're going to gain 10,000 power, which is a significant amount of power compared to the other companions, right? Now, if no one's using it, you're only getting 1,500 power. Now it becomes, well, there's other options available, so... Defense, again, I have 4,000 power. You can run a Splinters here. I believe the Splinters is crit severity. You can argue that 4% crit severity might yield more damage than raw 4K power. That's up to you. The Baby Deep Crow, hands down, you're going to use it for 8,000 power. The Mercenary, again, 4,000 power, 2,000 combat advantage. Now, finally, me personally, I don't have a Alpha Compy. If you do have an Alpha Compy, you're going to use the Alpha Compy for the 4% power. The Owlbear is giving me about 3% raw DPS value. So I would like to see them change the Owlbear a little more. They nerfed it, a long time ago. It used to be 50%. Now it's 10%. It still procs fairly often. So if I don't crit, I have a 10% chance to do 50% of my power. 50% of my power is about 95,000 damage. So depending on how much it procs, PC players are showing parsing damage of, this is about a 3% upgrade. So for instance, if you were using a 4K power mount here, the 4K power mount for me personally, if you use Yone's damage calculator, 4,000 power to me is only giving me like a 1.7% damage increase. So that automatically tells me that the Owlbear is going to be better than running raw 4K power. 4K power for me personally is only going to give me 1.7% DPS increase. But the Owlbear is going to give me a 3% DPS increase. That's almost double the increase. So, yes, Owlbear for me personally, I don't have an Alpha Compy. I just simply refuse to pay 10 million to 15 million for it. I'm not going to pay that. It's outrageous. It's eventually going to get... something eventually will come out better. So I'm not paying 10 to 15 million for an Alpha Compy. It's just not going to happen. Now, the biggest thing... Biggest debate in the community, and it's all my fault, right? Because people can't listen to the things that I say. And it was blown out of complete proportion. Of course, we're talking about Mr. Grung. Critical hit, poison the target, 50 magnitude damage every 2 seconds. This is broke, okay? This is not proccing every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. What's currently happening with it is that it's only proccing every time you score a critical hit. It's not doing the DOT damage, alright? I still use this when I'm playing solo. The Raptor is going to do better as long as you have people wearing it. But if you don't have people in your group, the Grung is going to be better than 1500 power. Alright? Even in the broken state that it is. People wanted to argue with me and say that I had said that the Grung is best in slot and that you need to use it all the time. That is misinformation. So that is completely wrong. What my argument was originally is that the Grung would be better than running a 4K power. So for instance, if your entire team is running a Raptor and you're getting 10,000 power from this, then yes, 10,000 power. But my argument is the 4% power better than the Grung? That was my argument, and some people in the community, I'm not going to name any names, they know who they are, they're complete morons, and don't like to listen to reason, and then like to twist my words around. So, as far as factual information goes, the Grung is broke. It's not doing what it's supposed to do currently. However, I still use it when I'm playing solo. The argument is that the 50 magnitude damage on critical hits, I think it's better for me personally than running a static 4K power, because I already know factual, concrete information that 4,000 power for me is 1.7% DPS. So the Grung would have to be more than 1.7. And me personally, I think it is. So I run it solo. I don't really run it in groups. I just, run the 4K power, and assuming everyone has the Raptor. Now, the same argument can be, well, you're arguing that 4K power, well, what happens when no one in your group has the Raptor? You're only gaining 1,500 power from the Raptor if no one else in the group has one. I would say use the Grung. That's me personally. So, I have the experience, been playing this game 7 years, have put out factual information for the past, I don't know, how old's my YouTube channel now? Exactly. Play how you want to play, guys. I mean, if you don't want the Grung is expensive right now. I had people saying that I was giving misinformation on the Grung because I wanted to influx the price of the market so I could sell Grung. I don't even have any Grungs. I don't even have any of these to sell. So people were trying to tell me that I'm manipulating the market because I'm giving misinformation because I want to sell like 10 Grungs for 5 million AD each or something. That's just not the case. The case is that the Grung is going to be better than running a Raptor that only has 1,500 power, or 4K power. So you can make the own decisions. I really don't care. You can play your Warlock however you want. I can only give you the information. I can only suggest what you should run. So that was a big community. Well, it's not even a community bait. It's just a bunch of people that hate me that want to misuse the words that I said and then spread a bunch of lies about me. But for you longtime viewers of the channel, you should know better than that. So I shouldn't have to explain myself. So this is the AoE setup that I would most likely run, right? Assuming everyone has the Raptor. If we switch to single target, it does change a little bit, but not much. Single target, you're going to swap in a Batiri, because the Batiri is going to be 4% raw damage to bosses. You're going to want to use that for 100%. Again, now, for me personally, it all depends on the Raptor. If everyone's using the Raptor and you know everyone's using the Raptor, then you're going to get 10,000 power here instead of the obvious 4K power. So it all depends on if you're in communication with your group. You can't assume that all 5 people are running a Raptor. You either need to ask in the group, hey, does everyone have the Raptor equipped? Or you need to, be in a party chat and you need to be on the same page. Because, like I said, if you only have, like, you know, 2 of these, if you only have 2 people running this, well, guess what? Now you're only getting 3,000 power. But if you have 3 people running this, well, now 3 people running this is going to be better than 4,000 power. And if you have all 5 people running it, then you're getting 10,000 power. I think most of the Neverwinter community does have a Raptor, but there is no harm in checking and asking your teammates, hey, do we all have Raptors equipped? That way you know for certainty that if you have a legendary Raptor of your own, you're getting 10,000 power. So there's no main difference. We're still using the baby owlbear here. If you don't have the alpha company, if you have the alpha company, then use the alpha company. If not, use the owlbear. Again, I've explained the Raptor enough. Deep Crow 8K. Again, the argument here is you can use splinters. Splinters in the defensive slot actually gives 4% crit severity, so you can increase your crit severity by 4%, or toss in the minstrel here, which gives you 4k power. And then the biggest change is that Batiri Wisdom, it's 4% raw damage for bosses only. So that's pretty much going to wrap up the companions. Hopefully I get a lot of hate for that, and don't really care. I'm still better than you. Suck a bag of dicks. Moving along. Alright guys, and to conclude the video, we're going to look at the rotations, which aren't really that big of a deal. Especially speaking for AoE. You just want to make sure all the trash mobs are dead, right? So even if you lead with a Hellfire, you're casting your Fiery Bolt, and then make sure you're in the middle of everything getting that Blades. Don't be afraid to use your hand to blight melee. See how fast our Soul Sparks went up right there? Make sure you're casting your Soul Sparks. Just essentially utilize the lightning enchantment, make sure everything's dead. So that's pretty much for AoE. If we swap over to single target, same rules kind of apply. So you have your single target, make sure you lead with your Hellish, cast your Blades, cast your Hadars, cast your Killing Flames, smack it a bunch of times, full Soul Sparks, unleash your Soul Sparks, look at your recovery go down, rinse, repeat, cast your Blades again, get ready to cast your Hadars, finish with a Killing Flames, and like I said, smack, 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 full Soul Sparks again, rinse and repeat the process essentially. So what's happening here is we're stacking our Soul Adventure, right? There's our third Hadar, so now we have 2 stacks of Soul Investors, and this is the part of the mechanics of the Warlock that I just really don't like. It takes way too long to build up your Sparks single target. Here's our 3rd stack, so we're at 3 stacks, and we're already, what, 2 minutes into the battle, right? So they need to come up with a way to make Soul Investor either faster or whatever the case may be, but it takes way too long to self-buff ourselves. There's our Hadars again, now we're up to 4 stacks. We're not even at max stacks yet. So you can see the downfall to the Warlock is that stacking time for Soul Investor. We're going to hit our 5th stack here momentarily. So now, there you go. Now you're at 5 stacks, but now you also have to maintain it as well, so of course, you'll want to pop your Tyrannical, your Artifact. You know, you guys know the drill here. There's no real rotation. As long as you're getting all your abilities out, make sure you're depleting your Soul Sparks. Just stacking damage on top of damage on top of damage, guys. So, yeah, there it is. Not much to the rotation. That's going to conclude the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, go ahead and make sure you leave them below. All the timestamps will be in the description as well. Make sure you guys are in the Discord if you have any questions. Leave me general feedback below as always, and I'll see you guys real soon.